Hi everybody, and thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Joshua Doetsch, lead writer on The Secret World, for the second in the series of interviews celebrating the 10th anniversary of this wonderful game. Joshua, thank you very much for joining me.
Hello. Happy to be here.
So, Joshua, let's start off a little bit about yourself. So, who are you? What was your role on The Secret World? What do you like to do to relax? That sort of thing.
My role initially on The Secret World was I was actually being borrowed from the Age of Conan team pre-launch, just before, a little bit before launch. They borrowed me to kind of spice up the lore entry section. So I came up with the buzzing and kind of the voice for that, and wrote all the initial lore entries. And sometime after launch, when they moved the office down to North Carolina from Montreal, I took over as lead writer for a few years. And to relax, I like to play lots of tabletop role playing when I can.
Okay, we'll have a chat about that later. So, you said you were responsible for the lore. Okay, I have to ask, the buzzing. That's what started everything off. So tell me a little bit about the buzzing. What was it? How did it come to be? What's its significance?
Well, initially they had lore entries that were more neutral, kind of encyclopedic, maybe outside of the actual game world. Like it was just talking to you on like a meta level. Like, here's the history of this section of the Secret World. But they found it. They were finding that kind of style a little bit bland, so they wanted something else. They weren't quite sure what. So I think I wrote up mock lore entries in three types. One was the buzzing. One I think was a sort of clandestine deep throat kind of source that is giving you like files and stuff. Like, I heard this is happening, and I don't remember what the third one was. But the buzzing is what they ended up going with. Although it's just a description, this weird interdimensional bee voice that's like reaching your mind. I remember Ragnar hadn't read the sample yet. He had just kind of heard the description, and admittedly, the description sounded a little weird. But one of the other devs had read it all. I was like, no, you want this one, and he trusted that. Said, okay, go with that one. And then when they saw it fleshed out, they're like, yeah, it's just the way to go. And the buzzing was the idea that Gaia has this sort of separate entity that's sort of this information protocol, part of this sort of divine machine, interdimensional software / message / entity that I took a little bit of inspiration from, actually a little bit from Lovecraft and the idea of Nyarlathotep or Nyarlathotep, depending on how one pronounces it, as this sort of entity that's a messenger and the message. A little bit from the movie The Mothman Prophecies, the voice of Indrid Cold that comes through the phone taunting Richard Gere, and just this idea that there's just this sort of disembodied thing that can't really be explained and is hard to understand. So the idea behind the buzzing would be that it's this alien voice that is trying its hardest to communicate with your meat brain, and if it talked too directly to you, your head would explode. So it's just picking up electronic signals, commercials, jingles, things like that. It's just grabbing vernacular from that and trying to beam its message, almost a little bit frustrated with your limitations. So it's a helpful voice, but it has a little bit of a alien, maybe not sinister, but slightly mocking tone, or that might just be something lost in translation between it and you. But it was an idea for this sort of way to make the lore a little bit stranger, maybe a little bit denser, but hopefully in an entertaining way, where the information wasn't just coming to you directly, like, this year this happened, and this year this happened. So it's this not quite desperate, but strange voice that's just beaming into your head at weird times.
And the buzzing beat out deep throat sort of clandestine. Are you happy with that?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I was happy because like the buzzing was like the weirdest idea I had. It was the most stylized. It was probably the most me. Uh, and it was one of those ones that I wasn't sure. I remember there was a meeting where there was a meeting where people didn't know I was saying the meeting. So I can be a quiet guy, and I was just sitting kind of in the corner, and they described that what the plan was for the buzzing, and like some of the teammates are like, that sounds weird. I think they were thinking like it's just some like goofy little bee sitting on your shoulder like Jiminy Cricket like talking to you or something like that. And they voiced that, and they're like, "Oh wait, Josh is here." But then I wrote up several samples of it, and then when people read it, they're like, "Oh, they got it." It was an idea that you kind of had to see in execution as opposed to just the description of it.
I'm going to have to go back and read it now. Uh, the lore, for those of you who weren't aware, is you go around and you've got little icons, collectibles, if you like, which you either discover through exploration or you can collect through combat. And are they just collectibles, or were they supposed to be anything more?
They give you. I mean, the idea was to give this sort of piece by piece, give you deep lore that would enhance your understanding of the game, but not feel like it's punishing you if you didn't read them. Sometimes there'd be clues to things, but they weren't usually direct mission clues. It wasn't like finding the thing you need to look up online to
Although there
solve.
was one, wasn't there? I think because I've been playing it through
Mhm.
recently from the start, and I've just got to Venice, and there was one in Transylvania, wasn't there, where you had to look up a lore entry to get the
Oh, I think
guy's
you're right.
son. Was it
Mhm.
his son? Yes, it
Yeah,
was his
yeah,
son, wasn't it?
yeah. I think we did that. In general, it was more. Yeah. Um, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think there were a few instances of that. In general, it was just it's something. The idea was that you give lore that a player can stop and read if they want, but they don't feel punished if they don't, except in certain cases where it tied into the mission. But just kind of a way to deepen the mythos of the game.
All right. Well, I guess Secret World 101. Do you play the game?
Not lately, though I am actually uh, being consulted for a little bit of writing on a tabletop version of the Secret World. So I am involved in that level. I have not. It's been a while since I've played.
I'm looking forward to the tabletop. I've been
Yeah, I
chatting
think.
to Star Anvil, and
Mhm.
yeah, because I haven't played tabletops myself for a long time, but I always used to love Dungeons and Dragons, and just the idea of that in the Secret World just gets me quite excited.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix. The Secret World always had a fan base that uh, didn't just play the game but produced a lot of content, whether interview series like this or in-world radio stations or art or fiction. So I think having a game where you can just create your own. Everything's true. You can really explore that in a tabletop game.
So, do you remember the first time you saw the game being played or in motion?
That would. I think so. That would have been in the office. The first time I heard about the game was actually back in, I want to say 2009. I There was a job posting, and this is before I got my first gig in my first like full time gig in game writing. I applied to an open position for the Secret World. So there's probably some basic description of it, and I did a writing test. So I might have gotten some more information because it was probably like describing an item or a bit of lore or something, some short nugget of writing. Um, I'd gotten to the point where I gotten to the point where I'd done that and maybe an initial interview, maybe just the test. I didn't get the job. Someone else got that. Probably someone with more experience. Because again, this was like I was coming in with education, some writing experience, but nothing in the game and industry, and that's that tough hurdle to get that first shipped title.
So wait,
But
the lead writer on The Secret World didn't get a
did not get.
job as writing for The
Yes,
Secret World.
yes, my sweetlings, take this for a little bit of inspiration, maybe. I So when I got out of grad school, I had I'm a U.S. student who still is paying off student loan debt. I was living at home with my parents just after getting my master's degree, working, I think, the graveyard shift at 7-Eleven. And I was thinking, I got to be able to use this piece of paper that I've spent all this money getting. And I thought, well, video games generally are one of those rare things that can pay full-time writers, and I like games. So I applied to dozens and dozens of places. I just looked them up online. I made kind of a list, and I sent out dozens of applications. Mostly I never heard back. Occasionally I'd hear a no. I got a little bit further with The Secret World, but I didn't get the job. But Joel saw my writing samples on file when a job at Age of Conan came up, and he liked them. He interviewed me, and he thought I seemed like someone that would be easy to work with, good to work with. And yeah, so it can get frustrating getting rejections, but know that there's no penalty for the number of rejections you get. If you get 100 rejections, your chances aren't any less on the next one, and it just takes one acceptance to negate all that. So he gave me my first full-time job in the industry, and here I am now.
So what were you doing on Age of Conan?
Initially, writer. There were some layoffs that where I was kind of like last man standing, so I became lead writer of Conan just by kind of Highlander rules. There can be only one. I became the lead writer of Conan for a while. But yeah, writer from the beginning on that. So, or not from the beginning of the game. I started at around the time of Rise of the Godslayer on Age of Conan.
So going back to The Secret World, then, did you work on any quests on The Secret World?
Let's see. Not early on. Initially, it was just the lore, and then also as a side thing, a few of us developers started role playing as some of the NPCs on Twitter, in the Twitterverse, as we called it. And at one point, when I think there were three of us working on it, so like a decent amount of kind of side man hours was that we. It was Tuesdays. It was Twitter Tuesdays, where we would have clues and things like in the game that had to do with something we did on Twitter, that we did role playing with the players, and it was never announced. So like players kind of organically learned about this, and they're like, "Wait, is this official? Like are these official
Excellent.
characters?" And it was great because you had actual writers and the other devs knowing the story, like role playing the known NPCs, including Saeed, Kirsten Geary was the character I usually played, and she's fun to voice, text, and a few others. But yeah, I think that gave us a neat connection with the players that like has lasted to this day. Like I think some of the people that have followed me the longest on Twitter have been Secret World fans who there's a neat connection when you're actually like playing with them and not just throwing content at them.
So at what point then did you become lead writer?
That would have been in the Montreal studio, kind of wound down, I think, in 2011, and we moved down to where I'm at now in North Carolina. And that is when I took over. That would have been, I think a little bit. It would have been sometime before the A Dream to Kill issue, because when I took over as lead writer, I was working on a little bit of content before then, and then it was mainly A Dream to Kill, and then the issues after that.
So you were, as lead writer, you were what, writing the quests, the quest chains?
Yeah, yeah. The lore again, and yeah. Uh, cer- some of the devs would often, it would go kind of back and forth, but devs would usually create like we need, this is the kind of mission we want, we need this, and then like the text and the mission reports and dialogue and cutscenes.
Did you voice any characters?
I don't think I did. My brother actually, I think my brother recorded a little, I think like some Orochi, some doomed Orochi person, I want to say. I'm blanking now. I don't think, no, wait. I might have recorded something that didn't get used, and I don't remember what it is now. Ooh. I don't think my voice is anywhere officially in the game. But I think there was something I recorded that didn't that is on the cutting room floor somewhere.
All right, so talk me through the process of writing a quest. I suppose what's involved, how do you start, and where do you go from there?
The structure of it was often done by a quest designer. Now there might have been earlier meetings to figure out like what's going to happen in the storyline and in this expansion or this level or this issue. Um, and then a quest designer would make a quest with like, like this happens and this happens and this happens. We might have a meeting. It might involve a meeting where we talk about what's needed and we bounce ideas off each other. Other times it might be pretty fleshed out and it's just kind of sent to me and like, we need the text, which that shows up, which would usually be like the mission report that happens at the end. Any dialogue that needs to happen, whether it's a character barking something or if there's a cutscene, item descriptions, clues, like lots of little in-game artifacts, whether it's like someone's journal.
Or those little sheets of paper that you find.
Yeah, all those. That is a big part of the text that goes into the game is all those little nuggets, which is an interesting way to tell a story because you're kind of stippling a story that is not necessarily, you don't necessarily know the exact order things are grabbed, but it's a story that the player kind of fills in as they go. And lore entries, if there's lore entries involved with that particular mission, or even sometimes things like what's written on a whiteboard or in blood on the wall. What works best is when you're working closely, when everyone's kind of working closely together, so that you can tell the story environmentally too, which is often better than giving huge chunks of text. So,
show don't tell.
Yeah.
So what is a quest chain? One that you're really proud of your involvement, or one that sticks in the memory? Anything in particular?
Going back to Age of Conan real quick, one that I really liked because it was like up until that point I mostly received things and I would flesh out text for it, but like the first one where I really got to sit down with someone, we plotted everything out and I felt like I worked really closely, where the text and the gameplay were very much intertwined, was what was it, House of Crom and Age of Conan, where we turned a dungeon that had originally been a dungeon full of immortal Athenians, or not Athenians, Atlanteans. We had changed, the story wasn't quite working, so we had taken the same dungeon, but we had changed everything to where it's these ghosts of these Atlanteans, and then their kind of preserved queen, and we turned it into this whole Lovecraftian cosmic horror monster impregnation story that was just this whole tragedy, and I'm still proud of how that one turned out. Going to the secret world, I was pretty happy with the Dream to Kill. Right out the gate, working on kind of a creepy nursery with kids and stuff was
that nursery was seriously disturbed.
Yeah, and there was and then um the I mean the lore I was usually happy with. Quest chains. Tokyo was. Oh, you know what? It would have to be the Fear Nothing Foundation, definitely. Um, when you're in Tokyo, you go to a sort of youth group offshoot of the Morning Light. Um, uh, I get pretty fascinated with and fearful of cults and cult like mentality, and there's all kinds of fun expressions and ways to put that into a horror game or game with horror situations. Um, and that one was this kind of upbeat youth group called Fear Nothing, and it's the message sounds positive at first. It's like, you know, melting away those modern fears and having this sort of manufactured unit that you're part of, and it starts out that way and it gets progressively creepier. um, I read a lot of spooky stuff, and I most of the time I don't feel like when I'm researching something or writing something that like that it really gets to me. Like it's not like, oh, I went in deep and you know, like I'll be like, oh, that's spooky and that's this and that, and I'll work it in. But that one, doing the research, I deep dived a lot into the Heaven's Gate cult, which you can still go to the website. It looks like a perfectly preserved late '90s GeoCity website. It's like a little internet museum in and of itself, and you can read the exit statements of the people that tried to go off world to, you know, rendezvous on the comet. Um, and I injected a lot of that into the Fear Nothing missions, and it culminates where you're reading these lore entries, you're not lore entries. I'm sorry, journal entries and other text items that's telling the story that leads to this sort of mass suicide of this unit. And I think when you're kind of really figuring out the story, you look up and there's like a glass ceiling and there are shadows coming down and there are people laying there, and it's a really creepy moment that I think came together both in environmental storytelling and text.
Well, my original character got all the way through, but the one I'm playing at the moment, I've literally just finished the Venetian agenda. I'm just about to go to Tokyo, so I'm going to look forward to that, because there are some seriously creepy moments in that in game. That being one of them. The Black House is another perfect example of a creepy quest. The nursery, those dolls with the lighting sitting in a circle is just very, very disturbing.
Yeah, something about things being arranged.
Yes.
Whether it's dolls or Blair Witch sticks or things like that. There's something about that is just creepy.
One thing I liked about the Secret World, there are a lot of things I like about the Secret World, but about the quests, I liked that so many other games, and I've played a lot of MMOs. The one that spent most of my time, other than the Secret World, has been World of Warcraft. And every other MMO has got, go and kill 6 boars. They're over there. They're in that forest. You can see. Look, I'll give you a map. I'll even there's an X over there. You can just go follow the X. There are 6 boars over there. Go and kill them. Come back. And or there's, you know, go and fetch 6 boar eyes, but not every boar that you kill has got eyes on it. But it's yes. Which is just inexplicable. I think I went round the plains once in just outside the crossroads in the Barrens, and I had to kill these like ostrich things for their beaks, and I think I needed 6 beaks, and I had to kill about 50 because the first 44 didn't have any beaks on them.
The emergent storytelling that comes into my head is that you're just so clumsy. You're like, oh, I just ruined that beak. Oh God, I gotta kill another. Oh, I'm a horrible person. Yeah, it's pretty endemic to the style.
It's the sort of, go and kill X of Y, isn't it? And there is a bit of that in the Secret World, but it's part of a bigger quest. So, like for example, early on in Kingsmouth, Norma has you going and killing 20 zombies, but she tells you exactly what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, because you're trying to find out which zombies create the
Right.
blue fire. So, yes, I got to go and kill 20 zombies, but I know why I'm doing it. I'm not just
Yeah.
randomly going and killing 20 zombies.
Yeah, connecting it to the storyline goes a long way. It's because it's that joke of like, you go to this poor crying farmer, and he's like, "Oh, stranger, the bandits have killed my entire family. Please collect 7 chickens for me." And you're like, "What?"
I give you the sausage factory.
Yeah. But yeah.
Another disturbing.